There is an ancient Chinese proverb that says, there is one thing we can be certain of, and that is change. Change of relationship status, job, health, friendships, and so on. But when change happens, events that throw us into transition, we often get stuck. According to today's guest, Dr. Ann Moir-Bussy, it is these transitional events that give your life value. They're a statement that your life is worth all this attention and reflection. Ann says we cannot live in the afternoon of life according to the program of life's morning. For what in the morning was true will at evening have become a lie. So welcome to another exciting episode of Ironing Out the Wrinkles. I'm your host, Ros McMaster.
And I'm your other host, Kate Shaw. Together, we're taking the age out of ageism, helping men and women embrace life after 50 with less fear. So, how do you know if you're stuck? Well, do you fear that you are losing direction and need to change but don't know where to start? Do you want to rebuild confidence and self-esteem? Do you want relationships that align with your values and vision that will also allow you to grow? Do you want to build on the wisdom you've learned in the first half of life? Or are sick of struggling alone and want to be supported, but fear you have to be strong by yourself? Perhaps, despite all the growth work you've done to heal the past, you still feel that something is missing and stopping you from stepping into being the person you want to become in this second half of life. So, if you need some midlife inspiration to guide you to a more fulfilling afternoon of life, Dr. Ann is going to tell us how to get unstuck and reset our life purpose with 5 simple steps to embracing midlife and beyond.
Dr. Ann Moir-Bussy is a counsellor, transformative life coach, consultant, Reiki master, the author of several books, and has a long-running podcast called Alchemy in the Midlife Kitchen. She takes a holistic approach that embraces all aspects of life, allowing us to journey into the afternoon of life with endless possibilities. And without any further ado, that was a very long intro. Welcome, Dr. Ann Moir-Bussy.
Thank you so much, Ros and Kate. It's a great privilege to be here, and I really appreciate you asking, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you.
Yeah, so much wisdom. I've absolutely loved going through your podcasts and your website and your Facebook page. You have so many beautiful quotes, and we'll end with a lovely quote today because everything just speaks of coming from the heart with you, and you're very passionate about what you do, obviously. But that brings me to my first question. What led you to this journey of wanting to look after women over 50, specialise in that area?
Long story, Kate and Ros, long story. But I'll make it brief. I was just thinking when you were talking before a little bit, the words that came to mind were the words of an ancient rabbi who said, grow old, but don't be old, which I really love. Grow old, but don't be old. And I guess that's one of the things that set me on the journey, because we are growing older, and how do you not be old? Because by being old, he meant that you just give up and you stop living and you just focus on yourself in a negative way. And who was it said? Someone said, the saddest thing is for a young person to see a bitter old woman or a bitter old man who hasn't got life and joy in them anymore. So I guess why I want to help other women do that is because I learned that in my own midlife when I went through quite a strong turnaround. Midlife's such a transition, isn't it? And it's a time to sort of think, well, where are we going and what are we doing now? Why are we here? What's the purpose of all this? And is it just to keep working in a way where you're not, you're contributing, but you're not full of joy and full of life? Because I certainly wasn't at that stage. I worked really hard from the time I was quite young. My parents were missionaries, lay missionaries. And I think that was the spirit in us that we learned. And that was the era where you learned, do something with your life, be a missionary. So I went through secondary school and in my early life, and I became a missionary and worked really hard as a missionary, but as a teacher too, and working among Indigenous people in the Northern Territory, working in different schools. But I burnt myself out being a principal, being a teacher, because I was doing what everyone else wanted me to do, but I wasn't following my own heart. So that's where it started.
That's wonderful. And that's really, you've mentioned a couple of the things in your 5 secrets right there, grow old, don't be old. And just knowing yourself and not following somebody else's life. Find out what you're passionate about and embrace it.
Yeah, and gratitude and mindfulness is important too. Yes.
Yes. So I think, when we reach midlife, as we call it, and they talk about a midlife crisis, and it's not necessarily a crisis. It's you were talking before, Kate, about transitions. And I think what we forget is midlife is a transition. We went through in adolescence, when women begin their menstruation, that's a transition. When we finish school and begin adult life, that's another transition. And midlife, when the hormones start to get out of sync, get out of all over the place, or whatever happens. For me, it was getting very ill and not hormones so much they were out of place, but more having menstruation that ended up having hysterectomy because I just flooded so much. So it's something that stops you and holds you up and sort of think, well, what's going on? What am I doing all this for? Why am I still pushing myself? And I ended up with glandular fever and chronic fatigue.
Gosh.
And it was then I thought, I can't keep going like this. There must be something different. And it was that taking time to go within and finding a really beautiful guide in a Jungian analyst who helped me to go within and look at what I was doing with my life and begin to look at, why am I living out of other people's stories? Stop. What is it? Don't be satisfied with the stories that other people tell you. Unfold your own myth. That's a quote by Rumi, So don't be satisfied. And it took me a long time to stop thinking I had to keep living by those ideals that had been set there, because if I didn't live by those, I'd be breaking the promises that I'd made, or I'd be letting other people down. And so it took 8 years going through a journey of finding my own voice and realizing I do have a voice and I do have a story within me that's my story. And that story can help other people if I become authentic to myself.
That's the thing. Yeah.
It's scary, isn't it?
Yeah. And important that you made the point there that it took 8 years, because a lot of people, I think, want a quick fix. And if it's not working in the first couple of months of them saying, well, I've tried to sort my life out, I've tried to reassess the past and what I want, they give up really easily, or they think they've done it, but there's still so much more work to do. And I think we have so much internal unrest that we tend to find distractions to avoid that internal unrest. But what we need to move into the afternoon of life is to sit in the stillness and discover who we are.
But isn't that uncomfortable? We don't want to feel
that's
uncomfortable.
The point. Yeah, you find distractions, but you have to make a commitment. Otherwise, you're going to feel stuck your entire life. And instead of embracing it, it's such an exciting time if you're willing to make the commitment.
Yeah, well, social media and society doesn't help today, because, just look at the ads on social media when someone's reaching menopause, and it's pretend it's not there. Stay young, go back to being young, go back. And, can't I go back to the old times? And it's such a wrong message, because we can't go back, we're moving forward. But the whole social media, the noise it creates, the images of the fresh young face, and the makeup that I've seen lately, Thin Lizzy or something.
Oh yeah,
I've seen that ad, and I think all they're doing is covering up things. They're not becoming young. They're just covering up the beauty of who they really are. because every
Yes.
wrinkle tells a story.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's very much a recurring theme that we're finding in the guests that we're interviewing here. And Ram Dass says the same thing. You know, if you get stuck in the past and keep trying to hang on to and recreate a past where you thought you were happier, you're going to fail at that. You have to stand still now and say, well, where am I now? Where do I want to be? And move towards the new, because you just don't know what's out there for you to discover, and it can be exciting.
And Anne, one of your podcasts really rang true for me that I was listening to over and over again because I really love them. And you were saying that if you keep doing the same thing, nothing's going to change. And yet we expect it to change. So it's hard getting used, like if I keep doing the same thing all the time, which
It's
I'm
like
guilty
being on the
of.
treadmill, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
It's
Because
like
I'm
just being on
comfortable
the
with
treadmill.
that. Yes, yes.
We're so
Yes.
used to it. Yeah.
So how do you get off the treadmill?
You stop it. Get off.
Take a deep breath and
Take
jump.
a deep breath, stop the machine, and take a new direction. And
It's not
yes, that
working,
is
yeah.
frightening. David White, a beautiful poet, I love his writings. He talks about midlife and the great unknown. And it is a great unknown, but it's time, as he puts it, to have that conversation with ourselves. Can we stop and have that conversation and listen to the inner voice that's trying to tell us something, to tell us who we really are, and to stop the treadmill and to get off and to listen to that inner voice is really important. I think I talked once in one of those podcasts about the woman called Barbara.
Yes, you do.
A
yes.
girl on her
It's
own.
the second
and
one.
Her
Yeah.
father
or
sealed
third
her in a
one.
tower
Yeah.
because he didn't want to lose his daughter, and he didn't want any other man to have her. So he built a tower and invited her in, and she did what Daddy said, and he locked her in. And she spent ages just in the earth and exploring things and feeling really sorry for herself. And then one day she finally climbed the stairs of the tower, looked out the window, and just saw new vistas that she'd never seen before. And I think that's a bit like us. We're locked in that way of being down in the earth there, but we've never explored the air and the freshness of what can come in if we open the window. And I think that's what this transition in midlife is about. Look out, look in and look out, because if you look in, then you can see things in a different perspective.
Yeah, there's a Carl Jung quote that you reference in reference to that says, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. The one who looks outside dreams. The one who looks inside awakes.
Yes.
Yeah,
So true.
Beautiful. So,
I think,
and
sorry.
go on.
When we look back at a lot of the old fairy tales and the old stories, often what a woman had to do was go into the forest and sit in the tree. And it's a lovely expression, going into nature and sitting in the stillness, but you're embraced by the tree, and the tree lets go its leaves and it gets new leaves, and it drops its leaves. It's not worried about what it's doing. The tree is such a symbol of what we can be, allowing things to happen in their natural way. And so, midlife and menstruation is stopping, and with it, the body, the hormones, all that's changing, but we don't stop to think. And I don't think I did at the time until I went into that journey. We don't stop to think something new is opening up. Something stopping. That they call it. Who's the author? Wrote a book called Red Moon Passage, and it's a passageway from one part of life to the next part of life. And Angela's Arian, a beautiful author, she's dead now, and she has opening the gates of wisdom, she talks about. And menopause is the silver gate, and it's the gate to birth. It's the gate where you step into a new way of being, a new life. And yet we've got to keep hanging on, come back. Where's my youth? But rather than moving forward.
But our society is kind of like that with women, I feel anyway. Men are okay. They still, even being an actor, there's a lot more older men getting lots more work than women who are over 50. It's just society almost looks like we're invisible a lot of the time, and a lot of us buy that, like we accept that. So I love your work. It makes us reevaluate. We're more than our body. We're actually of value.
And I think I call that series Alchemy in the Midlife Kitchen.
Mm.
And, we talk about what is alchemy. And the ancient alchemists took all the raw material they found and tried to turn it into gold. And it was a physical sort of process they went through. But then over the years, it became very much that psychological process, that all those experiences that we have in the morning of life, and some of them are beautiful and some of them are ugly. Some of them are not very nice. Only talking to someone the other day, and they said they were filled with shame. And I said, what are you ashamed about? Because I haven't been what I should be. I didn't succeed in marriage. I didn't do this. It doesn't matter. That shame kills you. Shame is like a ceiling around you that stops you from growing. And it's our experience, it's our life. Transform it so it will become gold. And this is what the alchemists did. And I think that the journey we're on, if we can, I often talk to clients here that this room is a bit like an alchemist's room, because you put all this stuff down here and we watch it and we look at it and we help transform it. Not too much heat, not too much air, not too much wind, but you have to watch it and you have to observe it and you have to hold it with love and self-compassion, and then it transforms. So if you bring that self-compassion to your life and that love into your life, that will transform everything that you do, and it becomes gold for the afternoon of life.
Yeah, that's lovely.
The wisdom.
That's lovely.
Can I ask you though, like, just say someone who's new to all this, they might wonder how that they could develop self-compassion and acceptance. Is Qigong a good way, or meditation, or how does one begin?
It's a good question, isn't it? How do we begin? Because we're so used to judging and
And
being
pleasing,
judged,
yeah.
being judged. And women in particular, they become mothers quite often, or they're always doing things for other people. I think that's what I found. I was giving until I had nothing left to give. I'd burnt myself out, but I wasn't giving to myself, because we grew up in an age, don't think about yourself, forget yourself. And if you grew up in a very strong Christian tradition that was often quite puritanical, forget yourself, put yourself down, don't love yourself at all, because that's wrong. But God is love, and love is within us. As the poet Rumi talks about, you've got the universe within you. Don't act so small. You're part of the universe. You're part of the ocean. Don't act like just one drop of it, because you are the ocean. And how can we be the ocean? Because you're in a body. You come into a body, and one day we leave the body, but the love is still there. We remain in that great ocean of love. So only we can tap into that, and the silence helps that, the meditation helps that a bit. Tap into that love that is the universe that's within us, because that's who we really are. And that took me a while to learn that, hey, I'm not this little small individual being that everyone's judging and looking at. We're bigger than that. And that's what I want to help women and men recognize, that you're much bigger than this. You're not your body. You're not your thoughts. You're not all those emotions. That's part of your life, human experience, but you're bigger than that. You're love. And if you can trust in that love and live in that love, that gives you a totally new perspective on life.
Yeah, and that's where it's important again to go back and have a look at the stories that you've grown up with. Well, whose story is that? Is that mine, or is that a story that was imposed on me by somebody else? Yeah, and start again. Well, what do I believe about myself? And then just truly believing it.
I think too, realizing that all our experiences, if you think back at some of your own life experiences, and when you tell that story to others, it's interpreted. It's not the whole story, because we interpret, we see part of it, we miss part of it, we judge part of it, and then we tell the next part of the story, and it's not the whole story. And I often say to my clients, what's the story you're telling yourself? Something happens to you. So I went through a really bad experience in my 70s, when my last years of teaching in a university. And it was a very difficult time because of the kind of leadership there was ageist and sexist and a bit bullying, and I found it really, really difficult. And I remember telling someone about this, and she said, "What's the story you're telling yourself?" And instead of telling myself, now this is a wonderful opportunity to do what I really want to do, which is go and set up my own program and my own business and help people, I was telling myself a little bit of a victim story. And only when I realized, hey, the story I'm telling myself is not the truth. It's how I'm interpreting it, and I'm putting a negative light on it. How do we put a positive light on it? How do we change it and think, now I'm free. Now I can step out and do something different.
It's hard to find the truth about ourselves, though. I mean, it's taken me all this time, probably to 50 years, to being brought up a strict Catholic and all that. It's hard to change your mindset suddenly, isn't it? It will take a little bit of time, won't
Well,
it?
that's
do
what
we
we were
tell
saying.
ourselves?
Yeah,
8 years.
Yeah,
8 years.
Yeah,
Well,
but Kate, why
that
do we
was
tell
Anne's journey,
ourselves it's hard?
I know. I tell myself things are hard all the time. You're right. That's so true. Roz is a psychologist. She
That's
picks
the
me up.
I don't.
Yeah,
It should say it's
watching
easy.
our own language, observing what we're saying about ourselves.
Yeah.
It's
Yes,
too difficult, I
and
can't do
like
it.
like you said, turning it around, like that could have been a victim story, but well, what's the lesson in this for me? What's the blessing in this for me? It
Yeah.
released you to do other things. But having said that, ageism in the workplace is a real issue. It's
To
everything.
men as well as women, but especially men, they identify with their job, and then when they lose their job, they feel they've got nothing. A lot of people, I've seen it in my family.
A lot of women do too.
Yeah, well, a lot of women do.
job.
Of course they
I mean,
do.
I identified with, I was a principal of schools. I was a really, excellent teacher, and that becomes your identity.
Yeah,
But that's not our true identity. And I think if more and more women actually tap into that inner wisdom, the more of us that become this, driving energy for other women, that's how we're going to help women and help men too. Because I have men clients who are going through the same sort of journey. And I think we have to be really careful that we're not stereotyping either men or women,
yeah.
because it's a life journey. And who was it? Rumi said, you were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life?
I love that.
Yeah.
You're born with wings. Why prefer to
I'm
crawl
going to write
through
that
life?
down.
Why
That's
are
what I
we
mean. Your quotes are all so
Yeah.
lovely. But, and, secret 4 of your 5 secrets, you talk about gratitude and mindfulness. And I'm passionate about gratitude. So how did you develop gratitude and mindfulness as part of that journey?
They're part of the journey. I mean, I was used to meditating because the early Christian life and the missionary life that was part of my daily life was meditation. But turning it in a different way, mindfulness, that paying attention with love, like John Kabat-Zinn, who talked a lot about mindfulness, it's paying attention with love and without judgment to what's happening each moment. And that sort of mindfulness, the little practice every morning of taking that time. I often say to clients, you've got 24 hours in a day, take 5 minutes or 3 minutes at the end of every hour. You're not spending that much time, but it's those 3 minutes to just come back to that center, come back to that mindfulness. How am I breathing? What am I, doing with my thoughts, my emotions today? When I wake up in the morning and you wake up pretty tired, or you wake up exhausted with events that have happened, or might be, how am I going to live today? I worked with a wonderful woman in Hong Kong when I was teaching at a university there, and she was in charge of the whole program. And I remember her saying one day, she was a Buddhist, very beautiful woman. She said, when I leave the house in the morning, before I close the door, who am I going to bring love to today? How am I going to share love today? And that's always stayed with me. And, well, who can I bring love to today?
But everyone needs love. That's what's missing in the whole world, isn't it, really? Yeah,
How can you give love if you don't love yourself?
that's so true.
Can't pour
How
from
can
an
you
empty
give
cup.
love if
No.
you don't come back into that, live in that love? It's a beautiful thing. It reminds me, I just lost my brother recently in the last few days. And when he was young, he joined an order of priests to train to be a missionary of the Sacred Heart. And that term, Sacred Heart, is a term for the love of God. And the motto that we all had for that is be on earth the heart of God. Not be somebody else or be someone else's vision, not be like other women, but be yourself and live that love that's within you. Be on earth love, because that's who you are. And you're in that ocean of love. And if only we can come back, as you say, to that mindfulness and just remember, I am in you and you are in me. Chun-Yi Lin, who's a great Qigong master, he used to say, I am in the universe. The universe is in my body. The universe and I are one. And I love that expression. I am in the universe, which is love. The universe is in my body. So I'm in the body's in the universe, and the universe and I are one.
So we're all kind of one, aren't we, really?
Yes,
We're all
we're
part
one.
of the universe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, please, when you're talking in your wonderful podcast again, sorry, I really did enjoy it. You mentioned the barrier inside ourselves. Is that what you were talking about? The barrier is really ditching all the past.
Not ditching it as much as transforming it, Kate.
Okay.
Transforming it. The past is part of us, but we haven't got the past anymore. We haven't got the future yet. We only have the now. And that's, I'm still every day reminding myself, you have now. What are you going to do with now? And let the past, it's part of your experience. It's what makes us, to a degree, who we are. Even the painful things that have happened, for so many people, there's been abuse, there's been abandonment, there's been all sorts of things. But it can be transformed if you bring self-love. Talk to that inner child, talk to the little girl within you, like your little Kate and little Roz. Talk to her, show her that you care for her and you love her, and bring her into that love so that you can then spread that love around. It's just such an important task we have as women.
Gee, never
Yes,
thought of that.
nurture the unhealed voice that's in you.
Yeah, nurture it and bring that self-compassion in. I mean, it's just so important. I think another thing Rumi said was, when you do things from your soul, feel a river moving in you. And is it John O'Donoghue? I'd love to flow like the river flows, surprised by its own unfolding.
All these beautiful quotes.
Like the river flows.
How did you actually come by the expressions the morning of life and the afternoon of life?
Carl Jung talked about the afternoon of life a little bit. I think it's just, I think if we think of our life, it's a bit like a day. It's time-wise, and the morning is fresh and bright, and you've got a lot of energy. And I think as the seasons and the days remind us of what our journey is like, I think we do have a beginning, and we have a middle, and we have an ending. It's different for different people. And to me, the afternoon of life, and now in our 80s, I mean, I'm almost 81. So coming into the
Congratulations.
coming into the evening of life. Yeah, is it Mary Oliver? She said, what will you do with this one precious, beautiful life of yours?
I love that expression. Yes, love Mary Oliver quotes. They're so deep. But speaking of 81, I think you were saying it was quite funny quote. You had an OBE now.
That's right. A friend wrote to me and said, "Congratulations on your OBE." And then turned over the page, and I turned over the page, and it said, "Over bloody 80." I thought that was lovely.
I love it. I thought you really were an OBE, and you really are. Yes.
Yeah.
So one thing I've noticed as I get older, and I wish I'd realised this when I was younger, is that everything is temporary.
Everything changes. Everything is change. Yeah. So it's we talked about grow old but don't be old, and it's something to do with that positive attitude. It's not, you can't be positive all the time. There are sad things, there are traumas, there are all sorts of things that are ups and downs in life, part of daily life. But what's the story we're telling ourselves?
Yes.
How can we look at this and let it be part of what's,
Let it be our teacher.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, think of the poor people in Ukraine and the people in the
Yes,
flooded areas and the people in the war zones. I mean, we are so blessed in Australia.
totally. Yeah.
Oh,
Live in
absolutely.
paradise, don't we, really?
But
Although,
and even, like I mentioned earlier, finding the blessings. Like when I got cancer, there were just so many blessings in getting cancer. I used to be, and it came at a time I was, I think, 54 when I was diagnosed with cancer. So, right in that moving into the afternoon of life when you start wanting to move into your passions. And I'd had a lifetime of being quite shy and reserved and wouldn't step into the powerful woman that I knew I was meant to be because I was always so afraid of being judged. And when I was diagnosed with cancer, I just thought, wow, how much of my life have I wasted? And I just dropped it all and just went, you know what, I'm going for it. I'm not saying no to anything. What a blessing cancer was. So you can always move out of that victim. There is always something to grab a
Yeah.
hold of and embrace.
I wasn't as
Yeah.
brave as you, and I got cancer. I had mine at 59, which is also amazing because it's up to turn 60. But yes, you really had a journey. Mine
Yeah.
was pretty straightforward, but
Mm.
it is a
I think
blessing.
midlife is often it is something that sort of pulls us up a little bit. For some people, it's broken relationships. For some people, it's loss of job, loss of career. For other people, it's illness. I got really ill too. It was with all that chronic fatigue stuff. But if we can take that time and, as we said, I think what we need is a guide. Dante in his Divine Comedy, and he said, midway upon the journey of my life, and I found myself in the dark forest, for the straightforward way was lost to me. How I got there, I don't know. I must have fallen asleep. And I think that's what we have done. We've fallen asleep, meaning we haven't been conscious or aware of what we're doing. We're asleep. And there are a lot of sleeping people walking the world at the moment,
Yeah, I got a message about that. Yeah,
not living with their consciousness. And
so true.
our
Yes.
job is to help, to be that guide for others, just as we find a guide. I mean, I found a wonderful Jungian analyst and a spiritual guide who walked me through or walked with me as I was making all these steps. And there was another lovely friend of mine who died recently, and he used to say, life is made up of fateful detours and wrong turnings. And I just did love
Yeah.
it, because fateful detours and wrong turnings, but you can always come back to another road, or you find a different path. You make a fateful detour and then you find a path you didn't know was there, and you can take that path. And if we can bring that support to women coming behind us, if we can show them, yeah, we've taken these steps. We can't do your journey for you, but we can walk with you, we can guide you, we can help you, we can support you. And the more women doing that, the more we're going to help the younger women coming on to realize
Yes.
that there's so much that they can bring to the healing of the world.
Yes, self-love,
Yeah.
The healing of
self-belief.
the world,
Yeah.
absolutely. But even that, taking a wrong path, I imagine there's a lot of women and men who say, oh, but I've gone the wrong way and I have to start again.
Too late.
It's too late. Time is running out. But I think that's, part of loving yourself, and nurturing yourself is just sitting there in the moment. What's the hurry? Like, and there's no such thing as a wrong path, I don't think, is there?
No, there's no such thing as failure.
Mm.
There's only feedback.
Yes.
And learning.
There's no such thing as failure. I mean, it's all part of experience. It's all part of what we do. And we have a choice. I think this is the big thing. I suppose the one thing I want to sort of remind people of, everything we do is a choice. And we do have a choice. Even when terrible things are happening to us and, all the things, the way we are, we have a choice in what sort of person we're going to be today, what we're going to bring out there to others today. We have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we might feel, as you say, often very sick, or you wake up exhausted. I mean, when I woke up this morning, I felt like I'd been dragged through a washing machine backwards over the last few days. But I had a choice. Do I get up and, drag that around all day and make everyone else feel miserable? Or do I, make that effort, do that deeper breathing, that quiet little bit of qigong, move the energy, shift the energy, and make a choice how we're going to be today. And a lot of people say, oh, it's not my fault, someone else's fault. We're a great society for blaming other people.
Mm.
Who's to blame for this? Who's to blame for that? Rather than being accountable for ourselves. I think it's
Yes.
holistic.
That's the thing. And if you've got a dream and a passion and you're moving towards it, if they don't have confidence in themselves or for whatever reason, they can tend to self-sabotage and not recognize that it's not somebody else's fault. They're putting blocks in their own way that stops them from living their passion and moving into their passion.
That's that
That's where you
barrier.
reach out and hold their hand, take them by the hand, show them love, and help them to show love to themselves.
Mm.
And I was just working with someone recently, and they've grown up with a really hard life and feeling they can't do it. How can I love myself? I'm not worth loving. And just little bit by little bit by little bit, they're getting that sense that they're worth something more than that. Because they're receiving love now, they can then begin to love themselves. And
I commonly hear that two people aren't enough, are they?
They are, but they don't believe it.
I am enough. Yeah.
I am enough.
Mm.
There's I did an interview in the podcast with a lovely guy recently, Peter Anthony, I think his name is Peter Anthony, and he had he'd separated from his wife, and then one day his daughter, who'd been living with the mother when she was a teenager, phoned him up and said, "Dad, can I come and stay with you?" And he was about to get married, but he said, "Of course you can come and stay with me." And she was always saying, "I'm not enough. I'm not good enough." And she felt really bad about herself. And he kept telling her, "You're enough." And one day when she was about 16 or 17, she finally said, "Dad, I'm enough and you're enough." And they coined ANUFF, enough. And she went on to university, and they've got T-shirts, "I'm enough, you're enough." Beautiful. And you can buy the T-shirts, and you can look him up and buy her, her website, and how she transformed her life because I'm enough. So
That's beautiful. And how nice to get that message so young.
yes, she was lucky.
Because she'll keep attracting now people who reaffirm that.
Yeah, and she's wanting to help other people. And this is what we do, we go through that, and then we learn, and then we can pass it on to others. We don't hang on to it. It's, you need to become a crone. And not the negative crony old woman, but the crone is the woman who crowns her wisdom. That's what crone means, a woman who crowns her wisdom. So you have to become a crone, and you also have to become a hag. And hag.
I know those expressions. I hear them a lot lately when we talk about moving into that second half of life, and it's such an unfortunate name, like hag and crone.
I've heard
but the crone is she who crowns her wisdom, and the hag comes from the goddess of wisdom, Hagia. Hagia is the goddess of wisdom. So let's be hags like her.
How does it get the connotation of?
But back in the old days, it was if someone said, "Oh, she's such an old crony," it was meant to be an insult, or she's such an old hag. And now we're sort of embracing those terms these
restore
days.
The
crone
words
and hag.
What they truly mean. I mean, it's what society destroyed. They burnt the witches, and the witches were the wise women who used nature. There was a lovely film came out last year called Time of the Sixth Sun, and it talks about the Mayan calendar. The Mayan calendar went in the suns, and we've actually just entered the era of the sixth sun. And in the film, they go back to the beginning and talk about how people lived they knew where they came from. They knew they'd come from love, and that they were here on earth to bring love. And they lived as a community, and they shared together. And then over the years, we've lost that with greed and with people, people wanting more, and the selfishness and the wars. And what we're here for is forgotten. I think what a lot of us and a lot of people had forgotten is, who are we? Where have we come from? And where are we going? And if only we can take that message and put it back out there. We're here for love. We are love, and we're here to give love. And that's what the second half of life is about. I think it's about spreading that more and more with each person. So only a little bit. Smile at the person at the checkout. You know,
Exactly. I think a lot of people think, oh, I've moved into the second half of life and I have to reinvent myself. And what am I going to do? What's my passion? They have a sense that they have to be great or do something great before they die to leave a legacy on the planet, leave their mark on the planet. But it could simply be being the most loving, wonderful, nurturing grandmother, or like you say, smiling at people at the checkout because there's not enough people receiving smiles. So
Don't you think
Yeah.
little things mean a lot, don't they?
little things, yeah.
little
Remember
thing.
the little things. Well, that's a nice way to round off our conversation today, Anne. It's just been really, really lovely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I've got a lot out of it. Thank you.
So I know you've got some things that are on offer, some services that you're offering. Would you like to talk about those?
This is the free ebook, Embrace Life Now. You've got the link, Ros, that I sent you, and you might put that up here for people, to see. They can just sign up and get a copy of the free ebook. The other thing is in the work that I'm doing with women, and I have some online programs, but I'm also at this stage beginning to work with women over 50, I think, as I said, in their professional successful life, and helping them to begin to embrace the love that's within them and the wisdom within them, so that they can bring that into the workplace where they're working. And I'm offering, over the next couple of weeks, I'm offering 10 free 40-minute sessions for women who really want to explore how they can make that journey. So I'll give you the link will be there for them to sign up.
Yes, I'll upload that link. This podcast might not actually go to air till about mid-March, Anne. If people contacted you and said they heard about it through the podcast, would they still be able to access that?
Yes. I'll take some people now, but yes, it certainly, they can have a free consultation to set them on the journey and to help them. And then if they really like what they hear and they're finding that's helping, then we can introduce them to other ways that they can do that through the programs that we have.
It's wonderful, isn't
Wonderful.
it? Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, if you would like to take us out with one of your wonderful quotes, something on the perhaps sums up the joy of moving into the afternoon of life.
Well, I found one by Rumi. I mean, there's so many quotes, and hard to know which one is the best one, but there's a lovely one I found. I want to sing like the birds sing, not worrying about who hears or what they think. I want to sing like the birds sing, not worrying about who hears or what they think. To me, that's what we're trying to do. Sing like the birds. Bring that joy out there. I love listening to the kookaburras laugh. In the morning, they laugh, and you think, oh, thank you. Remind me to smile. So let's all sing like the birds sing. Let's fly, open our wings and not crawl.